Creating and adjusting objects in 3ds Max is quite simple and interactive. All you need to do is go to the Create panel, and that's open by default. Within that Create panel are a bunch of subpanels for creating different types of objects, and the default one is Geometry. In the language of 3D, geometry refers to models or objects. So for example, I can create a box. I can click on that button, and to create the box, I'll go over to this perspective viewport and click and hold the mouse and drag it out. And I'm continuing to hold the mouse as I do this. And you can see in the Create panel that I'm getting numbers that are indicating the length and width of the box. When I release the mouse, then I can drag upward to set the height of the box. And when I'm finished with that box, I can click again to complete that box. If I haven't clicked off of anything, then I can still go over here to these parameters and adjust the length, width, and height of the box. If I click again in the viewports, I can create another box. And again, it's click and hold, then release, and then drag up to set the height. When I'm finished making boxes, I can choose a different tool, such as the Select Object tool up here, and that will turn the Box Creation tool off. I could also just right-click in the viewport, and that will exit out of Box Creation. Once I've made objects, then I can adjust their parameters by going to another panel called the Modify panel. And if I select an object, once again I have access to its parameters, such as length, width, and height. Select a different object and adjust its parameters as well. These are primitive objects, just building blocks. I can go back to the Create panel and make other primitives, like a sphere. A sphere is easier because it only has a radius. I'll just click and drag and release. If I'm finished making objects of that type, I can right-click. If you're more comfortable with a menu interface, 3ds Max does provide that functionality. You can also go into the Create menu and choose your object type, such as a standard primitive cone. And for each one of these primitive types, you'll have slightly different creation methods. With a cone, I'll click and drag to set the radius, release the mouse and drag up to set the height of the cone, click again, and then drag to set the second radius. Finally, click yet again to finish that cone, and then right-click to exit the tool. So each primitive has slightly different creation methods. Once you've created an object, you can go into its Modify panel and adjust its parameters. That's a quick introduction to creation and modification of objects in 3ds Max.